Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the new movie, Immaculate. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way maybe one day I can join Sydney Sweeney as a fellow Spokanite who makes it big. Yeah, right. The synopsis is as follows. An American nun embarks on a new journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. However, her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors a sinister secret and unspeakable horrors. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. Cecilia is a nun whose convent recently shut down. She's contacted by a convent in Italy, and they pay the way for her to come and join this convent. But a couple days in, inexplicably, Cecilia finds herself pregnant. What follows is a rather horrific film, as everything unfolds as a consequence of that, and as horrific mysteries get uncovered. The first couple acts of this movie were decent. They built a light amount of suspense, you were interested in what was going on, you weren't on the edge of your seat, but you were at least interested. And laying that decent groundwork set it up for, okay, the end of this film is either going to make or break us, let's see what happens. And in my opinion, it definitely broke it. The last 20 minutes is the final act of the film, and for me it just delved into bad horror movie territory. Not to mention the very end of the film is very disturbing and disgusting. And so I left feeling disgusted and not really enjoying the film. So for me, plot gets a thumbs down. 2 is family friendliness. No. There's a very light bit of profanity until you get to the final act, then it kind of piles it on. This isn't a very violent movie per se either until the final act of the film, but there are a couple very graphic, gruesome things that happen that the camera does not shy away from whatsoever. Pretty disturbing stuff. In addition to that, while there is no unclothed nudity, there are a couple scenes of women wearing white, wet clothing, and you can see their top half underneath. Pretty easy conclusion there. For me, family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. The only acting performance here we're talking about is Sydney Sweeney, because not many other actors or actresses get enough screen time for you to notice anything. Sydney Sweeney was a bright spot in an otherwise pretty dismal film that didn't have much to write home about. I thought Sweeney did a good job playing this innocent nun as she's entering this territory of what is going on, how is this possible, and what have I walked into. And the script of this movie was pretty good until the final act. With the dialogue between characters and the building of the scenery and for this convent, I thought they did a decent job with storytelling. The final act of the movie just threw all of the good bits out the window, and it felt like 2 very different ideas in the same film. And because of that, for me, acting and script get a 50-50. 4 is character development. The character development in this movie is slim to none. You get to see Cecilia progress from becoming this innocent nun into this character that needs to take care of herself and protect herself, but there's just no depth there or with anybody else in the movie. This movie pretty much is what you see is what you get. And that tends to be one of the shortfalls of horror movies in general, and that trend continues with this film. So for me, character development gets a thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. Holy jump scares. This movie had more jump scares in it than I have seen in horror movies in a while. Personally, jump scares are really irritating to me. I don't think it takes a lot of talent to do them. And at the end of the day, none of the jump scares in this movie even mattered. It was just a cheap attempt at adding some sort of horror element into a movie that was otherwise a drama. I also noticed probably in the first and a little bit into the second act that a lot of the shots of this movie were very dark. The contrast between the candles on the screen and everything else made it really hard to see much of anything on screen, even in a completely dark theater. That goes away about halfway through the movie, but it was definitely noticeable. There's also quite a few disgusting things in this movie, but again, nothing that impressive. So for me, visuals and CGI, I get a 50-50. And 6 is rewatchability. Immaculate clocks in at just under an hour and a half long. And even though this movie was slow, it didn't feel long. It just wasn't very entertaining. The shift between the first 2 acts of the movie to the third was abrupt and felt weird, and the movie ended on an absolutely disgusting and disturbing note. Again, with a movie like Barbarian, at least there's some things that you can look back on and think, wow, that was creative, wow, that was interesting, that was entertaining, even though it was disgusting. For a lot of this movie, it just wasn't very entertaining, and it was just disgusting. So I will never be watching this movie again, and I hope to forget about it soon. Rewatchability for me gets a thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give Immaculate a 3 out of 10. Sydney Sweeney had a good acting performance, and this movie did a decent job building some mild suspense leading up to the final act of the movie. But the direction they decided to go with the final act of this movie, for me, ruined it. There was no character development, there was a bunch of useless jump scares, and there were some very disturbing elements in this film. And sadly, because of that, even if you enjoy horror movies, I don't think that this is one that you'll find worth watching in movie theaters. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen Immaculate, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.